So thank you very much. This is literally the last sales confidence event of 2022. So just give yourself a round of applause for getting out of the house. Well done. It is good that you've made an effort, because a lot of you I've only seen on Zoom, and you're both a lot shorter, and you don't usually dress up. So congratulations for making an effort and dressing up tonight. Okay, so we're going to get on with the way. What's the format? Can I just get an idea in the room? Is this the very first sales confidence event? Put your hand up. Wow. Amazing to all the newbies. Literally 6 years I've been messaging you, and finally you've responded, so I really appreciate that. Obviously all the regulars, thanks for coming back and spreading the goodwill. So the format of tonight, Owen, my wonderful co-host, Owen Richards from Vere, and I are going to be opening up today's event and hosting the event. In terms of the format, there's 4 speakers tonight. We've got Peter from Databook that's going to be introducing their platform and the value they add to enterprise sales teams. Then we've got Kat, who is responsible for sales in EMEA for Clary. They've just become a new partner, so we're just going to introduce them tonight. And then we've got the wonderful Carly, and then we're followed by Adam Kay. So once we've had the 7 minutes, we will announce the top 50 sales leaders. And we will run through that, hand out some awards for the top 10, and then you can go back to drinking and networking. I will ask, it is quite a big effort to get up on stage and speak to 150 plus experienced sales leaders. So please do give everybody your attention and kind of respect the speakers. Obviously take plenty of photos and share online, but don't take any phone calls. Last day of the month was yesterday, it's the first, so hopefully you're all right with that. Owen, let's have a round of applause for our wonderful co-host, Owen Richards. Have you got a mic?
Hello. Hello.
How's it going?
Very well, how are you?
Where have you travelled up from, Owen?
A little town called Exeter.
Amazing. 2-3 years ago when I met, I never left Exeter. So the fact that he's a regular face up on our sales confidence stage is exciting, isn't it?
Born in Kingston, but yeah.
Okay, forget that one. Have you got any words of wisdom, Owen, you want to share with the audience tonight?
Oh, geez, put me on the spot. Wow, okay. No, I don't. No, it's lovely to have everyone here. It's always really good to see people in person. I think when we put this event on the 1st of December, as soon as it ticks into December, you have a little bit of nervousness about people thinking, is this worthy of my December calendar? So really nice of everybody to turn up in person. James, you're also shorter than I thought you were in person, because you always told me you're about 7 foot, and then it's like the Zoom lie, isn't it? You can still get away with it even when you're a gorilla.
I do add on the inches often.
No, it's lovely to be here. Looking forward to the speakers tonight, and looking forward to announcing the top 50 as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Owen. As you can see, we've gained a few partners this year. Thank you very much for everybody's support. And also, honestly, I know it is a Thursday, and the fact that you've come out, I genuinely really appreciate it. It makes it happen, right? So thank you for putting the effort, showing up tonight, and I really do hope you have a great experience. So to open up this evening's event, I'm going to invite Peter up to the stage, who is General Manager for EMEA for Databook. He spent the last 14 years or so building out consulting teams for Accenture and advising companies on growth in the media, tech, and communications industry. And then a few years ago, the founder of Databook approached him about the power of technology and the power of having a strategic tool so that when you are engaging with C-level executives, you have the right information at the right time to inform the decisions that you're looking to influence. So, Peter, can I get a round of applause for Peter and invite you up to the stage?
Can you hear me well? Does it work?
Are we on?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot, James, for ruining my entire story. So I'm almost done. No, thanks a lot for the introduction, and big shout out to James and his team for this great event. I'm not alone here. I'm here together with my colleagues Jeanette and Bas. If you please raise your hands so everybody can see you, because obviously we would like to speak to every one of you after this small talk and the awards. So I'm a little bit the odd one out, as you outlined. I've been spending the majority of my professional career in consulting. And then suddenly entering to a SaaS space was a nightmare, I can tell you. It was a big change, but also a very interesting change. And I used to work with Anand Shah, our co-founder and CEO, who founded Databook 5 years ago. We used to be working on what we called a client value lab. Now, it doesn't say anything to you, but basically it was a 360-degree analysis of any big and large prospect. But it took us 8 weeks to derive insights that would then drive opportunity prior to talking about our solution set, just the client value. But it took 8 weeks and we can only do one at a time. So he thought of this brilliant idea to scale this into a platform. And that's the foundation of Databook. I will explain a bit more how it works later on. And not to be all doom and gloom, but first of all, we need to have a little bit of a burning platform for any SaaS company, I would say, out there. So we see a couple of challenges, and that's also the purpose why we're here. So the rise of the strategic buyer is something we like to call, is an interesting dynamic, because there's so many more point solutions out there than there were in the past, in the very old days of just ERP and CRM. Not only that, but there are more buyers, not only in the IT space or the CIO space, but also in the lines of business. And to add more to that, they need to assess all the point solutions in a more complex enterprise landscape. So how do they do that? The problem is they can't tie business value to those solutions. So basically, let's think this in for a second. So somebody comes to them, we have this great feature, we have this great platform, we'll optimize your business, but what's the value? So they approach the value from the solution perspective, but they don't address the business value. Now, that might be a complex thing, but I'll show you a bit later how that works. On top of that, many of our SaaS sellers, our friends, they have tactical tools. Now, they all serve a purpose, but they basically optimize the cadence or the chain going from outreach all the way to closure. And they do a little bit of optimization, but they don't tie it back to value, business value for the customers. So how do you address that client value? And thirdly, if this works, well, we can almost read it. You'll be the clicker. Of course, we all know what the current economic climate is, and we all have to do more with less. That's a problem, because how can you optimize the outcome, especially when a lot of SaaS companies and the enterprise companies we're focusing on, they have these big growth rates, historical growth rates, but they can't keep up with those. So how do you do that? And then, and then lastly, the SaaS growth model, as we know it from the big tech, just adding more salespeople with more quota is not per se going to move the needle. And also, if you even enhance your product, the challenge with that is that, given current economic climate, customers are not always willing to pay for it, or they don't need it right now. So we have a lot of problems, basically. So how do we solve these? And I know this is difficult to read, but I'll just explain what the platform does for a second. So what we continuously bring together is the strategic priorities of any of our 50,000 companies on the platform. We combine that with an algorithm that shows what management is talking about. So the C-suite continuously shares presentations, are on investor calls. So we have keyword searches and algorithms that allow for the dissection of those important elements. And thirdly, we have a continuous engine that looks at the financial performance of these companies. Now, even though that's complex corporate finance material, we make it really simple for the seller to look at a couple of key metrics, which will allow you to see whether it's a growth problem, an SG&A, a supply chain problem. We dissect that. But we also look at budget cycle and buying cycle. So many companies say, well, we have this great relationship, let's go for this big opportunity in Q4. We can already see, given the performance of that company, that that deal is not going to land in that quarter. And by the way, we work with Microsoft, AWS, and Salesforce globally, three of our largest customers, and they use this as scale, because what we try to do is bring those basically persona-based sellers up a notch or two so they can address value with their customers, and that increases the entire pipeline. Now, how do we do this? We combine all these things through metadata with your recommended sales plays. So whenever a seller goes on the platform in an industry vertical looking at a specific prospect, he or she will see what the recommended sales plays are. I can share you a little anecdote. I was with a customer last week, and then the customer was about to say what their challenges were, but we already saw on the platform the first 3. Those were the 3 challenges they had. So our use cases, we use it ourselves, of course, drink your own champagne, as we say. They surfaced already their key pain points. So this actually works quite well. And then to make matters even better, the propensity to buy score is a score that continuously changes on the platform. So it allows not only sellers, but also heads of sales and CROs to identify whether this company is actually in the market for your solution. Not in general, but specifically for your solution. So for who benefits from this? Oh, sorry. So if we go all the way through the chain, the BDR and SDR, if they use the platform, they're able to carve out a specific notion of what management is talking about with a piece of value. And if they tie that together, and we help them do that, actually the amount of meetings go up with at least 20%. So it's quantity, it's not quantity anymore, it's quality over quantities, apologies. And then for the account executive, you just saw the sales plays that are being serviced, but it allows them to save a lot of time. So we know from research that they spend on average about 30% in front of the customer. And that's not what we want. As sales leaders, as coaches, we want them to be as much in front of the customer as possible. And it's also the fun part, and that's what they like most, right? So how can we improve that? Well, by diminishing the amount of research time that one needs. So it helps. And we also are integrated with Microsoft Dynamics and Sales Cloud. So it provides a business health lens to their opportunity landscape. So it's not a sales admin tool anymore, but you get the intelligence with it. Now for regional sales leaders, we can help them optimize the territory by stack ranking these companies in their pitch, or in the patch, sorry, and then show them what the propensity to buy is, so they can look at which ones to prioritize. And then finally, for a CRO, it's of course the most important thing is stability in forecasting. I just spoke with one of our other speakers tonight about how can you have a plan that forecasts the right thing. And that allows for continuous account planning. So not make a plan for the year, but every quarter look at what the propensity to buy is of the companies in your territory. And that really helps in the forecast predictability. We get the BS out, if I can actually say that. So that really helps. So all in all, to keep it short, I hope I'm in time, we want to say strategy over spam, put the strategy at the heart of the pitch, become more client-centric, close more deals with a higher ACV. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not easy to open up the event, and really important for us that we introduce new technologies to you that are scoping out your business for the next year. So our next speaker I'd like to invite is Kat from Clary. Round of applause, please. Kat was second in the top 50 sales leaders last year while she was at WeWork. So can we get a bit of an round of applause? Mentions that I didn't mention it, so I thought I'd remind you. Sorry, my voice is loud enough. Have you got a lapel?
Is it working?
Yes, it is. We're good. And also, what was also really helpful, on the way up, she did compliment the venue, which was nice because you used to work at Soho House, didn't you?
That's right.
Back in the day.
I did.
So you've got an eye for detail, so I really appreciate that
I also
comment.
noticed that I didn't get a glass.
Well, since you've become a partner, we've upped the budget this year.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's all going.
It all goes on glass. So we're just going to share a bit of a moment to thank Clary for becoming a new partner of Sales Confidence. Thank you very much. We're just going to spend the time, just a couple of minutes. I guess the first question to ask, really, Kat, is, why did you join Clary?
Well, before I answer that, I just want to shout out my amazing EMEA team who are here tonight.
Thanks for coming.
It's not often where you go to a new business and you're just so unbelievably grateful for the talent, and that's what I keep telling everyone when they ask me how the new role is going. So I'm 4 months in. Why did I join Clary? I think it's threefold. So firstly, the product. I'd have to shout out the product because I'm here tonight, but really, as a sales leader who's spent many, many years running revenue and sales through disparate tools, and really struggling to drive efficiency and predictability. Coming to Clary, it solved so many of my problems, and now having one unified solution across the entire go-to-market org is truly a game changer, and I'm not biased. I genuinely am selling to my ex-boss, so yeah, it's really, really a fantastic tool. Secondly, haven't finished, is the culture, and I called out my team because as I entered into the interview process, and by the way, I had a 3-week-old baby, so it was really a suboptimal time. As soon as I met the leaders at Clary, I was just absolutely addicted. The culture's infectious, it's so positive, it's driven, it's passionate, and the talent is just second to none. And the third reason is, what is the third reason? It was...
You've watched all the videos, you've done this before.
One of the most important reasons, I followed one of the most inspirational female leaders across from WeWork to Clary, and she's someone that I always earmarked as an individual I'd love to work from, learn from, and aspire to be. So they're the 3 reasons I joined Clary.
Thank you for sharing. Just a quick question. Before this evening, how many of you were aware of Clary? Just put your hand up. Okay, cool.
Pretty good.
So that's not too bad.
Great.
So I guess for those that aren't aware or familiar
Yes.
with Clary, like, where does it actually add value to people's worlds?
You're testing me now. No, Clary is the machine that helps you run revenue. So from the rep through to the board, Clary helps you spot risk, identify activity gaps, and really forecast predictably. And it is the solution that's completely revolutionized the way I run my business. And the amount of signaling you have access to is really quite incredible. So I've become obsessed with it. It's a bit addictive, and my team are probably very annoyed with me because I know exactly what's going on in your worlds all the time.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you for sharing. And then just final question, why did you decide to partner with Sales Confidence?
Well, many reasons, but 3 of them being, I think, myself and the EMEA team are extremely bullish and passionate about growing Clary across the EMEA region, and you do provide a fantastic platform to help us do this. Secondly, have to call out your CRO breakfast, where I met a few of you at the NED in August, and it was my 2nd week at Clary, and I had a direct mandate to really, grow this business, and I thought, these are the kind of people that I want to sort of interface with, and this is the content that I think is really credible. So that was the 2nd reason. And third, I just think we are a SaaS company that's aspiring for category ownership, and Sales Confidence and the events and the way in which it operates really gives us the launching pad to do that.
Amazing.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of it.
Yes.
Cheers. Thank you. Good work. Got some fans already, which is great. You're up, Owen.
Only because you don't know what's coming next. Coming up is our next speaker, Carly Fordham. Carly is commercial leader at Arctic Shores. Her title for her talk today is Rethinking Talent in 2023, assessing a candidate's potential holistically. Bit of context on Carly before she comes up. She joined Arctic Shores as their CRO last year, having previously led sales at CEB, now Gartner. And she channels a wealth of international experience, which includes a 6-year stint in Australia building new teams at startups and also at listed giants as well. So please, would you give a warm welcome to Carly Fordham? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the clicker is working. Hi, everyone. I am Carly Fordham, as he said. I'm CRO with Arctic Shores. I'm so excited to be here and speak to you all. Thanks so much for inviting me. The reason I'm here today is I actually wanted to share some personal reflections around how I have built teams and how Arctic Shores has actually completely challenged me in how I go about hiring. The reason this is so important today is because of the environment that we're all in. So we know we're about to enter a tough period, and we've had a challenging time across this year as well. When you think about finding people, when you think about the premium that leaders are paying for sales talent, recruiter fees. So there are challenges that we need to address and think differently about in order to be able to successfully come through the next couple of years. And I wanted to start with some reflections on where the recruitment process has moved from. So this is an actual question I was asked in my very first job interview for a sales job. Was actually in a sports shop selling shoes. And I fluff my way through it saying, what's your favourite colour? Or what I should have done was just take the pen away and ask them to sign something, but you live and learn. I did get the job, thankfully. But other reflections I've had in my time hiring people, and mistakes that I think many companies make. So in the late 2000s, I was building SDR teams, and the company policy was to everyone that came into the business had to have a degree. And particularly, we were looking for people that had a 2-1 and that preferably came from a Russell Group university, so more well-established universities in the UK. Now, this is a problem that I didn't really think about so much at the time, but our team looked quite similar. They had similar opinions, they're around the same age. We lacked diversity. And although we have come a long way and our interview processes have improved, there's still some work to do. So I wanted to take you through the typical sort of recruitment funnel, particularly how we approach sales hiring, and some data as to how we're still not getting it quite right. And then I'll go into what you could try, what you could challenge yourself with. So when you think about the typical hiring process, sales or otherwise, but focusing on sales, obviously, you have your application form, you have your job ad that you're looking at. Now, that normally would have some kind of reference to experience. You're probably all looking, when you're hiring salespeople, you want someone that can come in really quickly, get the job done. But the problem with that is you're sifting people out. You're not sifting people in. And there's a lot of talent that's out there that is going unseen. So that's one barrier. The next one is using CVs. So full of bias. Recruiters, for example, spend sometimes seconds reviewing them. So how do you know you're actually getting a good view of someone? And some organisations use assessment. This is what Arctic Shores does. We are an HR tech business that enables you to see more in people, looking at their personality and their intelligence as it's applied in the workplace. So we use that, and I'll talk a bit more about it. But of course, then you want to really dig into someone's capability in an interview. You want to know that they've hit their number. You want to know they've got the potential to succeed in the job, obviously. You want to test them through a role play. You want to see how they're going to plan to hit their number and hit their goals. So we've become much more thorough in that process. But my concern is, and it's probably a concern for many of you, is that we still have a lot of challenges that we're experiencing, particularly in this market. So over half of sales people are looking for a new job. 20% of sales leaders think they're going to achieve their number this year. Cost of a bad hire, so if you think about cost of turnover, someone leaving, replacing them, that's just from one US study from university, but there's quite a range there in terms of hundreds of thousands that could be potentially walking out the door. And if we talk about diversity, we still have a huge problem. If I reflect on gender in particular, in mid-November, you might have heard of the Gender Pay Gap Day. In mid-November, it's essentially the day where women stopped earning for the rest of the year because of the pay gap. So I wanted to take you through a way to rethink how you bring people into your business, because even if you're not hiring as many people as we go into the next year, you still will be doing some hiring. So I thought this was particularly relevant. So what we need to do is move away from a reliance on experience and hire for potential and essentially ditch the CV. I won't go through all the steps here, but this is an extract from a playbook that we're about to release to support talent acquisition teams on this journey and how they can go about doing it. But I just wanted to understand from the room, who does not use a CV in their screening process? Okay, good, a few people. That's great. And the challenge is that you need to think about a different way to understand someone's potential. So I'd be curious to understand how you go about doing it. But at Arctic Shores, no surprise, we use our own assessment to assess talent. So we get an understanding of the capabilities and the competencies of someone, whether it be in a sales role, whether it be in a marketing role, any role it can be applied. And we're getting some really nice wins that I wanted to share with you. So with removing the CV by using our own tool, we've made some key hires in the last 6 months. So one AE that joined us a couple of months ago had never sold tech before, had some very transferable skills, and is now on the path to absolutely smash their ramp. We also brought in a partnership manager a couple of months ago as well, who has never been a partnership manager before, but had some relevant experience. And so it's all about that support that you provide someone. The reason that we need to rethink and change again is because I'm sure we all want diverse teams. Diverse teams perform better. And if we are continually swimming in the same talent pond, we're not going to solve the problem. There'll still be those talent gaps. So I want to challenge you to think about where you might get started. An obvious place to think about looking at potential would be in your entry, roles, your SDRs, your BDRs. But actually, could you remove the CV as a screening tool for your next AE hire? Could you not look at it for when you go into that interview and broaden up your mindset and be open to seeing someone's potential? So I wanted to leave that with you. I'm very happy to have a conversation with anyone about how we took this approach and how you might too. But thank you very much for your time, and good luck for the rest of your Q4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're now going to invite our final speaker up for this evening. Honestly, having conversations with lots of you in the last few months, it's kind of obvious for how many sales leaders, how difficult the environment has been at times. In fact, someone that was supposed to be coming this evening just let me know that he just took on a new sales VP role a month ago. The second day he got there, the CRO got removed. He's now become the CRO, and he just announced that he's got to let go 30% of his go-to-market team. So, there's a lot of stress on you as individual leaders because of this market. And I think, to be fair, that's one of the main motivations for pulling together this type of community, so you can lean on each other as we kind of foresee difficult times ahead. Now, our next speaker, to be fair, has had a phenomenal run. Adam Kay has spent the last 10 plus years building multiple SaaS sales teams. In particular, for the last 4 years, he took Paddle from Series B to Series D, was also responsible for leading the business when they acquired Profitwell for $200 million, and was responsible for growing ACV 10x and ARR 20x in those 4 years. There's a lot of kind of back channel chats that I have with people on LinkedIn, like we all do. That's where I appear. And there's consistently, a lot of kudos in Adam's direction. So I'm really grateful that he's going to be closing tonight's event. So since wrapping up that gig, he's now become CRO of a company called Fonoa. Should have tested that. Fonoa. Let's edit that. Adam's just joined a company called Fonoa as CRO, which is a global tax solution, automation platform and compliance solution that helps companies streamline the entire transaction. He's going to be talking about the revenue leadership between wartime and peacetime. So let's have a round of applause for Adam, our final speaker.
Should have told you beforehand the name. Thank you. Really nice introduction. Really nice to be here as well. Great to meet everyone. As James said, my name's Adam. I have spent the last 4 years at Paddle, joining it post-Series B at around 4 million ARR, and leaving a couple of months ago as we crossed the 80 million ARR milestone. And as James said, several rounds of funding and a recent acquisition of Profitwell. Look, today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the context of wartime and peacetime revenue leadership. It's a topic that we're all absolutely and acutely aware affects our day jobs today. And it's allowed me a chance, especially over the last few months, to really reflect on my learnings, particularly over the last 4 years with the growth that Paddle have achieved and the experiences that I've been through, and what lessons we can think about. Caveat, I come at this with a vulnerable approach, which is, I don't know, right? And this, we're all learning, we're all experiencing things for the first time, right? For the last 15 years, we know we've been living in boom times in the SaaS world, right? A constant, continuous adoption of SaaS. We know that capital has been relatively easy to access, combined with kind of macroeconomic circumstances of effectively free money, low inflation. It's been great. And of course, today, we stand at the edge of a very, very different landscape that we're about to enter into. We are looking at ACVs being pressured downwards. We're looking at sales cycles lengthened. We're looking at investor and board memos coming down about preserving runway. And sadly, as we're hearing more and more, people in our sector being let go and businesses closing down. So what does this mean for me? What does this mean what do I have to transition from in terms of my behaviors, my attributes, my focus from the good times to what we're calling now the war times? So I think it's very, very useful to take a step back and go back to fundamentals. And I think the job of any revenue leader in an ambitious, fast-growing company is to build a repeatable, predictable, scalable engine. What does that actually mean? Well, it starts with knowing your addressable market. It starts with knowing your ICP, your leading and lagging metrics, your KPIs, and from there, developing a route to market that you can build a plan against and making sure you can execute against that plan. All right? This is the fundamentals, and that doesn't change in peacetime or in wartime. However, in wartime, we know the consequences of getting it wrong are much more severe. A missed or poorly planned quarter will mean, sadly, having to extend runway, cut heads, probably your own as well. All right? So what can I be doing? What lessons can I draw from peacetime to apply to wartime and make sure, no guarantees, that I'm giving myself the best chance of success? So for me, I start looking back at Paddle. And I look at that extraordinary growth, and I try and think about why we went through that growth. And I'm very, very thankful that, again, the last 15 years, this was the third journey of kind of sub 5 million to north of 50 million. So I've had a chance to kind of compare different approaches. But the first major factor, I believe, in Paddle's success, outside of an outstanding product, outstanding positioning, was the people, right? And Reed Hastings, EMEA, wrote a great book called No Rules Rules. I'd highly advise you read it, which is a story about the Netflix culture. And ultimately, what they do is they boil down the success of Netflix and the culture there to this obsession with identifying, attracting, retaining, and developing A-class talent. Okay? And, showing at the same time B and C class talent at the door. Now, I appreciate this is quite a controversial point for some people, and it's obviously a lot easier said than done. But the cost of holding on to B and C class talent isn't just a burden on your P&L, it has an impact on the top performers, on the A-class talent. It's toxic, right? And so I truly believe if you want to be an A-class company, you need to have A-class people on that ride with you. So how can I start thinking about what identifies A-class talent? And I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think it takes a lot of time, understanding, and Carly shared some great ideas about how you can sift through that without necessarily relying on a CV. But for me, there is one common denominator of what an A-class talent looks like, and that is a growth mindset. Now, this is different, slightly nuanced from being coachable. A growth mindset is somebody who has the awareness and the proactivity to make sure they're continuously leveling up. Right? Imagine a typically fast-growing business. Hopefully many of us are working in these businesses today with high ambitions, especially early stage. Those businesses are changing, evolving, developing at 200 miles an hour. Right? Every day looks different. Every day you've got new challenges. And the reality is, if the people on that train are not also moving at 200 miles an hour, that train will soon be out of sight. Okay? And it's a really important attribute I find for people to have, which is that self-awareness and that proactivity of always leveling up. Yes, they might be great today, but how are they making sure that they are going to be great in 2 years' time as this rocket ship takes off? So how does this impact me as a revenue leader? Okay, attracting and identifying this talent is a challenge, but once that talent's on board, my job is to foster a culture where learning development and leveling up is not a nice to have. It's an absolute prerequisite of the job of day to day. Coaching opportunities, budgets for learning and development, making sure people have got clear feedback loops on how they need to improve and areas that they can improve on. This is absolutely essential for me. Right? And I think that's one of the first lessons that I learned at Paddle, and making sure that we can drive those right people to the right roles and leveling up continuously. And of course, in wartime, this is even more costly if you don't get it wrong. If you get it wrong, sorry. In peacetime, you might have a bit of slack to get it wrong, but in wartime, you've got to nail that absolutely. So that's the first lesson that I learned from peacetime that I think, it's heightened in wartime. The second reason and the second factor that I think contributed mostly to Paddle's success is the concept of predictability. Again, our job as revenue leaders is to build a repeatable, predictable, scalable engine. And I'm not here to pitch Paddle. I don't work there anymore. But Paddle is effectively like a payments business in terms of the business model. It's a usage-based model. It takes a percentage of every transaction that goes through the business, which makes it innately very, very hard to predict. Fast-growing SaaS businesses are growing very, very quickly. How the hell do I know what they're going to perform over the next 12 months? So how can I plan my business against this? And again, we don't see this just in terms of startups. We see the kind of gold standard of software businesses who adopt usage-based models have a challenge with this. Your Snowflakes, your Twilios, predictability is hard. I said at the beginning that the last 15 years have been the golden era, have been boom times for SaaS. But I'm sure we were all in relatively senior positions in March 2020, right? The pandemic was here. We didn't know what it meant for our businesses. Everyone was a little bit nervous and unsure. And the message that we were getting from the board, from our investors, from our peers, was the same message we're getting today. Protect your runway. Make sure you've got enough in reserve to get through this, because uncertainty is here. So back at Paddle in March 2020, we were having the same thing. We didn't know what the impact of the pandemic was going to be on our business. In hindsight, and I feel guilty saying this, it was very, very good for Paddle, like many, many SaaS businesses. But at the time, we were uncertain, and we didn't have a huge raise recently behind us to make sure that we could weather the storm. So what did we do? How did we achieve this concept of predictability? And I think I look at kind of how I used to measure performance in my revenue organizations and how many still do today, and it's this focus on lagging indicators. What's the impact of the environment on my ACV? What's the impact of this environment on my win rate? Right? What are my conversion rates through funnel? But the problem is they're lagging indicators. By the time you've noticed change, you're already in problems, right? You're in the red. How can you get predictability as a leading indicator? I spent a lot of time thinking about this in March and April 2020. And what we did at Paddle was, I thought, quite cool, right? We looked to get predictability as high up the funnel as possible. And we created this stage early in this funnel called conversation capital C. And the way it worked was, myself, an AE or BDR, you're outreaching to a prospect, you get a response. Hopefully that response doesn't have a profanity or unsubscribe in it. Inevitably, I will reply back. And if I get a response back from the prospect, that lead moves into conversation status, right? So it's implying some level of intrigue, some level of interest, but certainly not a qualified opportunity yet. And having this metric so early on in the funnel gave us immense visibility into what our future pipeline might look like. In fact, we inferred so much data from it, it drove our behaviors. We found that 50% of leads that went into this conversation status converted into opportunity within 21 days. On day 21, that conversion rate dropped to 6%, right? It's a massive, massive drop. So of course we learned what our future pipeline was looking like. If our conversation levels dropped, we knew that in 21 days we're going to have a pipeline problem, right? But we also knew that we could drive the BDRs and the AEs to say, hey, this leads at day 14, 15, you've got 5-6 days to convert this, otherwise you might as well just disqualify it and focus on something else, because the chances of it converting to opportunity are very, very remote. So again, driving this behavior, achieving predictability in wartime is a requirement, I believe, more than anything, to heighten your chance of success during these times. So to conclude, yes, peacetime and wartime are very, very different environments for us to be operating in, but the core principles remain the same. Focus on great people and focus on building that predictability and repeatability, and hopefully we'll find a safe path through this. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Adam. Guys, would you come back onto stage for me? Was that all right? Thank you. Guys, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A. So if you've got questions, please let me know. We've got mic. Don't worry, we've got a handheld if you need to pass the mic across. I'm going to start just posing a question at the panel for a moment. Some interesting narrative around 2023 and the uncertainty that's coming. One of the things that I noticed is that this time last year we were stood here and everybody was talking about investing in culture. Very difficult when you come out of a board meeting and it's a bit kind of boink, boink, off you go, we're letting go of half of our go-to-market team, and you spent half a year investing in culture around those people. There will be people in this room that have either dealt with this or are dealing with it or are likely to deal with that in the next 6 months. I'm just wondering what your advice would be around how to still focus on driving positive culture when you might be dealing with headcount challenges, or, as James talked about, somebody who's walked into a CRO role and has been told to let go of 30% very, very quickly. You know, culture's still important. What would be your narrative around that point? Up to you who goes first. Do you want to go? Here, Carly.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. I would say first off, being real with people. So explaining what's happening to your business, the bigger context for them. I think people understand change if they can see why it's happening and the real business reasons, and actually understand the mechanics of your business. Because I think sometimes people can just focus on, you know, their small world, but don't understand necessarily the unit economics of your company. So I think that's really key. And then for the individual, control what they can control. Yes, there is this change that's happening around them, but what can they focus on their KPIs, their leading indicators, their predictability that can really keep them focused?
Yeah, I can add to that. I think when you think about culture, what drives satisfaction, and I've already spoken enough about learning and development and investing in people, but I think casting my mind back to being an AE, what drove me, and again, I'm not ashamed to say it, financial reward was at the heart of why I became a salesperson, right? Surprisingly. And I think as a revenue leader, my job is to manage the expectations of the people setting the goals for the people who want to achieve this financial success. I don't believe in showing up to a board meeting and signing up to a plan that you just don't believe in yourself and then passing that plan down to the team. So actually, it's about how much do you shift your focus in terms of satisfying what the board want, typically 500-600% growth year on year, versus an AE looking at their comp plan and saying, I can hit this, right? And that might mean managing the board's expectations about what growth really looks like so that your team can feel that they're in control of their success as well. And for me, that's one of the biggest drivers of culture. A successful sales team is often a very, very happy sales team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think how do you deal with culture and the challenges is, firstly, don't ignore it. It is the elephant in the room. And I would say it's also important not to have a top-down strategy. So it's like really understanding you have a ton of, you know, individual characters on your team. It's like empower the field to inform what priorities you have as it relates to culture. Because particularly in times of war, you need to understand, what's top of mind and what is going to really resonate with these individuals. So, have it come bottom up, not top down.
Yeah, maybe to add for especially the younger part of our team. It helps me to often relay what leadership has discussed and what it means for them, but also what the macroeconomic environment does, because they don't always understand it. So, and also what the implications are. Of course, restructuring is something, I mean, you all have to be clear about if you decide to do it. But apart from that, if for example, the quarter's slowing down, we can just explain what's going on, but also the telltale sign of that actually we have a good pipe, but it takes longer. It's also something that you can easily explain, but at least it gives some stability and some calmness in the room. Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience still? Fire away over here. Thank you.
So maybe a question to Albert, Adam in particular, is this. So in a SaaS environment, you have, as you rightly pointed out, been spoiled for growing by growth alone. Now you have to translate that into revenue. And so I'm interested to say, yes, people, culture, absolutely. But you manage the transition from going from a people focus into a value proposition focus and delivering that for customers? That's the key, isn't it?
Just so you know, we don't all have to answer every question either. Just if you've got something you want to add, please add it.
It's a great question, and it's a really challenging one. And I think Carly spoke to this as well, which is about aligning expectations. I don't think it's a binary shift. We're not shifting away from a culture and people focus. The people are at the heart of the business, and it's about making sure that the people are there and successful. This comes again with the aligning of expectations. So I'm not going to come to the board and say, our current performance, our leading indicators are telling us X, but we're going to deliver X times 5. Right? This is about making sure that the people on board, as I just said before, are feeling confident and positive about their ability to hit it. The value side of things, I think, again, where we're doing it and doing this now at Fonoa, and again, I've got to be honest here, this is day 13 of my role. I haven't been fired yet or let people go, so I'm feeling very lucky. It's actually about identifying the ICP or within your TAM and serviceable market where you think you're going to have the most success. So it's about the people on board looking at the segment of the market where perhaps are slightly more insulated from the headwinds of the impending recession there. So if I can really make sure, and Fonoa's ICP are software and digital businesses doing north of 50 million ARR, right? So it's an enterprise play, but not all SaaS and digital businesses are the same. So how do we make sure we are focusing our messaging, our positioning, our targeting of those that we think we've got the most success? And again, that's about making sure we've got the right measurements set up, making sure that we're using as much research and feedback. Things like win-loss reports are the most important thing for me right now, so that I can understand this sector within our ICP segment is actually facing more headwinds than the others. So it's about optimizing your route to market with the path of least resistance, I'd say.
Can I just be really clear on something as well, which I think is interesting at the moment? It feels all doom and gloom, doesn't it? It feels like everything's really hard. I mean, I'm hearing success stories every single week. I don't know about you. There's plenty of people out there still growing, still aggressively growing, doing it efficiently. But it feels like the narrative is very driven by the negative at the moment. Like, have we got a feeling as to why we're looking at that stuff over the positive stuff that's happening? I mean, this is a guy coming out of a company that's grown from 4 to 80 million in the last 4 years. That doesn't feel like it's all that bad, does it? Yeah. Thank you.
I'm conscious. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. No. And yes, we are hearing stories of doom and gloom and let go and companies winding up. But again, I was saying this before to my colleagues here, 2008, some of the best companies that we know of today were born in the credit crisis. Your Twilios, your Datadogs, your Shopifys, household names in the SaaS software industry today were born in times of immense uncertainty and economic hardship. And so I think it's not doom and gloom, it's a reshift of the balance, right? The businesses have been very accustomed to growing top line growth. ARR growth at all costs, that's what it's been. And I actually personally think this is the wake-up call our industry needs, right? We need to think about efficiency. Net dollar retention, the metrics have shifted in terms of what success looks like, and that's a great opportunity. If you can be one of those people that actually thinks to the future about what future investors, what future exits potentially, what a healthy, sustainable business looks like, your key metrics will change in line, and therefore you can achieve success in a different way.
It's interesting, isn't it? So many businesses have been focused on growth at all costs, revenue growth, all costs, headcount growth, all the vanity metrics. Yet suddenly people care about something very, very different. Really interesting to hear the narrative. Gentleman here, thank you.
I had a question specifically for Carly, because I think you just answered a question I was having around how do businesses more predictably kind of scale the business and measure the right things that keeps them on track so that they don't have to let go of lots of their workforce, etc. So I really like your answer. I'd like to pick your brain a little bit more on that. But Carly, with your presentation, I completely believe in your mission. I believe education system is broken, like the way that actually we select people as part of an application process is also broken. But one of the things that I think is really, it still hasn't been defined. It's a question, believe me. How do you actually pick my kind of experience, I'm still struggling.
Great question.
Carly, can you just relay the question, just for the back of the audience?
Oh, wow, okay.
The short one.
Anoop, it was how do you pick out the right kind of attributes in a candidate? Because this guy's struggling with all his experience.
Unfortunately, the answer is it depends. The answer is it depends, because if we're talking obviously about salespeople, you've got different roles within the sales function. You've got roles that are emerging within the sales function that people don't have the experience for, so you have to think more broadly. But I think it's in really knowing your business and knowing the sales cycle, knowing your audience and the kind of attributes you need in the people to be successful in that environment. And the way that we approach it is it's based on a very well-known psychology taxonomy, basically. Well, it's a big five. And essentially what you're looking at are the competencies like influencing, like delivering. They jump to mind for sales roles. They're going to be different for different kinds of jobs. So it's really important to sit down with your talent acquisition team or whoever it might be, the right team internally, to think through, for this job, what are the capabilities and behaviours we need? How do we tease that out? Now, Arctic Shores has an assessment, but I'm not here to sell that to you, but it's to really understand that. So when you are either screening or you're having those initial conversations, you're listening out for those things and thinking about ways to test that aren't just people telling you who they are. You need to be able to see them in action. So that's the challenge that we have in teasing out those different capabilities in people. But knowing what makes your people successful in your company is key.
Thank you, Carly. I've got a question for the back, and I'm going to bring the mic back here so it's a lot easier for people to hear.
Cheers, thank you. Can you hear me? So I've got a question around kind of understanding different generations. So I'm working in sales enablement at the moment, and we've got different generations coming through. When I was selling, there was a particular way that you learnt, and there was a particular way that you practiced, there was a particular way that you developed and you evolved. I'm finding that the evolution of people coming through are just a lot different. You've got to understand them. You've got to understand how they perceive different communications differently. I'd love to understand how you in each of your companies understand the new generation that are coming through so that you can almost enable them to become top performers, because as I see it, it's not the same as when I was an AE, when I was an SDR, when I was a salesperson. So I'd be very interested into how you guys develop that as leaders.
Okay, you go.
Yeah, actually, in my former life, I actually did a study on Generation Y versus the older guys, right? And girls. And what we found is that there are some attributes that are actually linked to age, which will determine that they want to have impact in 3 months. They want to go on the low after a year. Like we were working for 10 years, and then maybe we took a holiday, right? So it's a big difference. But there were also a lot of attributes that didn't change. So, and I really liked your story as well, because what we found, coming back to the other question as well, when you interview, you're looking initially at quota attainment, 3 years in a row or longer, very big names. And then once I start asking questions about, I had a side role in this project. It was a 300 million deal, but I actually wasn't the guy selling it. But coming back to your generation question, so if the ambition is high, if the level of proactiveness is high, if they want to help out with something, and you actually see that when you meet them face to face, are they really going to support your organization? Do they have a growth mindset? I think those things are way more important than level of education. Sometimes you want to have a more pragmatic person even than somebody who has an Ivy League, or how do you say it in Europe, an INSEAD degree. That's my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, it sounds obvious, but just a blanket and broad brush approach doesn't work anymore. And I think you need to understand, agnostic of age or background, what motivates an individual. And it may be, completely different from one to another. And if you need to spend time and you need to really, exercise empathy to understand that. And so, yeah, it's, everything you said is subject to productivity being high, but what does actually lead to that productivity being high? Maybe an individual needs to be invested in disproportionately compared to someone else. Someone needs to have, significant time off, but when they're on, they're really on. So I think it's really, really zoning in on each individual for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think when I moved into sales management for the first time, I was, thankfully had a successful tenure as an AE. I thought my goal was to build a team of Adams, right? Everyone, I was successful. If I can build a team of Adams, we'll be a successful team. Clearly, thinking has evolved immensely from them, and I appreciate the need for diversity, but that wasn't the answer to the question. The way I approach this is I am not hiring people because I can do their job better than them. And it's really important that people come into the company knowing they are the specialists in that seat. And my job is to create an environment where they're not frightened to try something new. They're not frightened to come and say, help, I'm stuck. Right? My first MD in my first sales role, I thought she was the guru of sales, and I was terrified to ask for help because I thought she'd think I was stupid. Right? But it's about me creating this environment where it's almost a sign of strength is asking for help. A sign of weakness is going at this alone, right? So really making sure people feel comfortable saying, I don't know what to do here. And that, I think, fosters an environment where people are quite proud to bring themselves to work, their true selves, and really be an honest reflection of who they are, regardless of gender, generation, whatever it might be.
We've got a question from the back of the room here.
Hello everyone. I just wanted to say this is probably the only time I'm ever going to be in a room full of sales leaders, so I couldn't pass up the opportunity. But I'm an SDR, so I just wanted to know from basically all of you guys what makes an SDR stand out, because I know that a lot of SDR leaders that I speak to, a lot of them like a cold call, a lot of them like a LinkedIn message, a lot of them like all of those different things. So I just wanted to know from your perspective what would make an SDR stand out.
You go first.
Okay. Hiya. I think first of all, it's knowing your audience. So who are you as an SDR selling to? Where do they go? How do they like to be sold? Is it a very crowded market? So you can think about what's the best way of approaching that target persona. I think now, with the amount of tools that you've got at your disposal, the real challenge is actually being creative and having that cut through, whether it is on the phone, whether it is in a LinkedIn message, but actually saving that space to be creative, to tailoring your outreach. Of course, you need to make calls, you need to hit activity metrics, but if you achieve that number via less touches, but they're more creative, I think that's the key to differentiating yourself and showing that you're being very thoughtful about what it is that your target audience care about. So I think that's the flair that I definitely see that is different today than when I was an SDR, for example, where it was tracking those calls and it was getting through, and LinkedIn wasn't, something that we necessarily used every day. So I think that's what I'm seeing.
For me, it's understanding me in so much detail that you really, really can perceive what's important to me professionally and personally, selecting something from those two buckets. And yeah, absolutely being creative in your outreach. And I did have another thought and it's gone. But yeah, just really having such a level of detail. And the other areas, like what is causing me pain? How can you solve my pain? Because we've all talked about the doom and gloom, but, there is an implicit pain that is, very, very much high on my priority list. So if you can tap into that and help solve it for me, then it's going to stand out.
Yeah, maybe a practical example. I get called a lot by SaaS recruiters. And it's first of all, they're really surprised if you pick up the phone. So it's like, whoa, I have somebody on the phone right now. I need to talk. So I actually listen for, let's say, 30 seconds. And then they want to get to the point, Peter, are you happy with your recruiting? And it's always, by the way, from London somewhere. So that's not a question I want to answer on Friday night at 7 o'clock my time in Amsterdam. So instead of saying, to your point, I loved your post, what's your perspective on X, Y, and Z? I actually read it. That would be, I would be on the phone for 5 minutes because I love to talk, right? So that would be a great entry point, I think, to address the personal things that you share on LinkedIn or your role or relevance to your role.
Are we done? Adam, have you had a go or not? Go on, really quickly. Thank you.
Thanks. So yeah, I think there are some absolute truths that you can't escape. SDR is a hard work job. You know, you've got to do the numbers, you've got to do the grafting. But I also think there's an element that's often missed, which is, you know, people are given a playbook, a call script, do this and this will happen. I actually believe in empowerment. And again, I come from a very kind of biased angle. I've only worked in VC-backed companies as opposed to kind of bootstrapped or PE or whatever it might be. But I think the mandate for anyone in a VC company is to break the benchmark, to beat the benchmark, do something different. And I think it's a tough job being an SDR. You're getting rejection probably the vast majority of the time, and you've got to, you know, develop that thick skin to do that. But if you can find a way to enjoy your role, and I think enjoyment comes from being empowered to try something new, to try and beat the benchmark, to try and, you know, pathfind a new route that the rest of the company can follow and level up. I think that's a great way that SDRs can be successful, regardless of what the message is.
Okay, 3 really quick things. To that SDR over there. Sorry, you didn't actually say where you were from or your name, and I think given you've been brave enough to do that, you should tell us where you're from in case you want to talk to the SDR who's here to clearly hit up some sales leaders. What company are you from? Legend.
Good job.
Well done. Good on you. Good on you. Sorry, mate.
Wrap it up.
Two things. Got to wrap it up. Pete Blackhurst, where are you? Could you just point towards that light for me, just see whether you can do it again. For those of you that were here last month, Pete's arm went up like this in the middle of his talk, and he smashed this chandelier, which they've replaced somehow, which is incredibly, very impressive.
We've got it on video.
We have got a video. We've got to wrap up for the top 50 now, haven't we, James?
Yes. Sorry, no, I want to get people back to the networking. The speakers will be around for networking conversations, but can we just have a round of applause for all our speakers, please? Thank you. Yes. Good job. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. We get one at the end. I just want everybody to. We're gonna go into the top 50 awards before we get to drinks. But can you just pick this up off the chair, please? This is from Clary. And like genuinely, I think there's like 40, 50 quid's worth of gear in there. Honestly, there's a power block and there's an energy bar. These don't sponsor me yet, but Science in Sport, and I'm starving. So just make sure you take these away.
You're meant to do those post-run, not before-run.
They don't want to take them back to their office. So grab your carry bag. Vitaly, just want to get the awards up. Yeah. Owen, can you help with the table? Yeah, it's fully powered. It's your first Christmas present. Thank you very much, Clary, for doing that. Okay, so just to listen up, collect your attention for 5 more minutes. We are now going to go through this year's top 50 SaaS sales leaders in the UK. Exciting stuff. So just to give a bit of background, this is the 6th year we've created this list. Thank you. And, you know, just in terms of understanding the process, so every year we basically in the summer, in about August, September time, we go out to the market and we gather all the nominations for a period of a couple of months. And then that goes into a short list. And in terms of defining it, there's a few kind of variables that we take into consideration. So naturally, look, let's be frank, we can't rank you by your performance. We've got no idea how some of you are really performing versus others, unless, of course, you use Clary, and then we'd all know. But enough of the plugs. In essence, you know, we are taking into consideration a lot of the anecdotal feedback, and also looking at your growth data using sources like Crunchbase and Financial Times. And then we basically, for the last 6 years, I have a peer group of people that I then kind of sit in a room and say, look, this is what we've defined. You know, any real red flags or arseholes, because I want to get those out. So, like, if you're not on the list, you obviously know where you stand. That's unfair. I am joking. Look, we can only pull together a list of 50. We don't allow the sponsors in the top 50 sales leaders. Also, if you were in the top 10 last year, we like to kind of refresh it. So come back next year for if you're in the top 10 this year. So just what we're going to do to make this super fast, Owen and I are going to read the names down from 50 to
Is this on?
If you see your name listed, just literally come up to the stage, grab a recognition card from Owen, get a photo with Megan, and then go and take a seat. And then we will do the final 10, and then we will announce this year's top SaaS sales leader. So, like, you know what it's like being at a school assembly and you don't get an award? Like, let's embrace this. We're all adults. And next year, work harder and spend more time putting in the nominations. All right.
Be less of an arsehole.
Okay. I'm down 34%.
Are we 50? Are we ready? Ready,
Okay.
50?
Yes. All right. So,
This is going to be a test.
I don't know. I'm nervous about this.
Yeah, you got to be with this. It's all the Red Bull. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
All right. Speak amongst yourselves. It's frozen. 1 second.
This wouldn't have happened at SaaStock.
Oh, here we go.
It's Christmas. It's
All right.
fine.
Okay, cool. So we go one by one. Let's just give it a round of applause. As I said, if you hear your name, you see your name, come up to the stage, get a photo, then go and sit down. No speeches.
No speeches.
No, you're all right. And then we can all go and have a beer and a drink. All right, so this is the 6th year that we've done this. Top 50 SaaS sales leaders in the UK. Owen, kick us off.
In 50th is David McIntosh from Bazaar Voice.
Kate from Go Cardless.
Matt LeMay from Meta.
We've got Matt in the room.
Matt, are you here?
He was here. Oh, he is here. Round of applause, come on, if you see them. Okay, Samantha from Wokiva. Vanina, Salesforce. Eduardo.
Where are we? Sorry.
Eduardo.
Eduardo Canasa, from Leapwork.
Adby, own backup.
Mark Dunn, Forza.
Natalie from Frazee.
Steve from Elation.
Come on, the SDRs were much
That's
better.
our top 40. Come on.
Right, Andoby from Okta.
Chris from Plan Hats.
John from Braze.
Elizabeth from Integrate.
Alex from Talent Desk.
Can you tell we practice this? Sarah from Sprinkler.
Tom from Herc. Nazari from Hokodo. I think he's in the room.
Nazari here?
Come on up,
Nazari.
Round of applause. Jerry Ree from Agola. Claire from Archdesk. Mike Han is in the room. Round of applause, Mike. Come up onto the stage. Let's give a round of applause for Mike. I'll read. Annabelle from Complete Software. Pamela from MyTech. Daniel from Snike. Kerry from JDocs. Tim Bird from Imperia is in the room. Round of applause. Congratulations.
You've gone so
Caroline
fast, I don't know who's
Access
coming.
Pay, Jim from Cedar, Amelia from Culture Group, and then Andy from Highspot. So this is this year's final 20. Jenny is in the room, number 20. Where are you, Jenny? Congratulations. I think it's her 3rd year in the list. We've got Rebecca from Alchemist, Louis from Uberall, Steph from Birdie, Katie from Applaud, Matthew from Ekig, Bridget from Afris, Jason from Zscaler, Philip from Content Squared, and Nicola from Microtech. So this is now the top 10, and they are in the room. I've seen you. Okay, so this year's 10th top sales leader is Cassie from Redgate. Yeah, give him a box as well. Oh, after, give him the box at the end. She's come all the way from Cambridge today. Congratulations, Cassie. Okay, in 9th position, we've got Pete Blackhurst, the Power Man. Congratulations, Pete. Well done. In 8th, we've got Laura, RVP from Better Up. Oh, she's here. Congratulations. Laura's had a credible run this year, moving to Better Up. Round of applause. And in 7th, Chris Doddridge from Sirocco. Congratulations, Chris. He's done multiple talks this year with sales confidence. Cheers, mate. Nice one, thanks very much. So we're getting down to the final sixth. In sixth place, Carly from Arctic Shores. Congratulations. Okay, so this is this year's top 5 top SaaS sales leaders in the UK. Fifth position, Sam from Zen Cargo. Congratulations. Cheers, mate. Well done. Number 4, Adam Kay. Honestly, he's had a stellar run these last few years, and by the quality of his talk, it's got a lot of evidence to suggest why he's up here this year. This year's number 3 is Alice, VP of Sales from 1E. She spoke at our last sales conference of completely transformed the business that she's moved into in the last 12 months. And you can find her talk on the Sales Confidence YouTube channel. And now we're down to number 2 is Katie Newton, Head of Sales from Dark Trace. She's not in the room, but honestly, I mean, they're a cyber business. It was hard to find and get her out of her business, but definitely someone you should look at and follow on LinkedIn. So this year's number 1, let's have a big round of applause. This year's top SaaS sales leader. Look, he's been on multiple cycles of a number of exits. It's no surprise that the company that he's built this year in EMEA has grown by 40, 50 people in the last 12 months. Big round of applause for Anoop Kira from Attentive. Is he here? Well done, Anoop. Round of applause. Take it in, mate. Well done, mate. Oh, cheers, mate. Yeah, we want a speech on this one. Share a few words of wisdom, Anoop. What have you got to share? You're on the spot now.
You put me on the spot, James. To be fair, I really wasn't expecting that. All I can kind of... you have to have an element of confidence and swagger, but I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, look, I really appreciate it. I think one of the big things is just be humble, own it, like it's me. I'm going to do the whole shit around with my team doing it, but I just want to give it back to these guys. They do a great event, they bring great leaders together, a great community, so just keep doing what you're doing, man. I think you're just paying it forward, and I love that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Amazing. Okay, so just to wrap up, obviously there's been a lot of people behind the scenes, all of our partners that have contributed in the last 12 months. We've got many of them from the team, and obviously like just wouldn't exist without your support. So thank you, everybody. But also genuinely, like, there's a couple of people that came up to me earlier and were like, James, you've been trying to get me here for 6 years. And like, I have. So when you do make the effort to come up, I genuinely am really grateful for it, because I know you're taking time out of your busy lives. So let's just have a final round of applause for each of you for making an effort to come tonight. Thank you very much. Just a couple more updates. Some of you would be aware now in the room that we launched a Sales Confidence membership. So if you're looking to kind of network on a weekly basis with your peers, especially those that you've seen in the top 50, and you would like to get access to them, feel free to follow up with me tomorrow. And then, is Alex in the room? There you are. Alex, you're just going to come up on the stage quickly, put you on the spot. Alex, next year, all of the top 50 sales leaders are going to be interviewed for our podcast that we're going to be launching. Alex is going to be hosting the podcast, and also he's just joined the Sales Confidence membership. So Alex, just to put you on the spot, just be good to know just who you are. why you joined the Sales Confidence membership and why you're excited about the Top 50 podcast next year.
Brilliant. Hey guys, I'm Alex. Nice to meet you all. Congratulations to all the winners, of course. Let's get a round of applause for everyone again.
Yes.
Great event, guys, as well. Brilliant job. So my name's Alex. I'm actually head of sales. It's my first day at Fonoa today. So let's get another round of applause for the first day. So yeah, I'm here just obviously to just have a chat, basically, and learn more about you guys, what makes you successful, and hopefully, yeah, just share those learnings that we can all take.
Yeah, really, like what we want to be able to do. There was a quote the other day that I got. You know, it's very hard to understand what happens in these rooms. You know, the people you meet, the quality and the impact that you're having in your business is phenomenal. And so, you know, what we want to be able to do more is almost like be able to Google your minds, access the information in your mind so you can access it from each other and basically become better, more effective sales leaders. And hopefully you can go into 2023 with a great year ahead. So let's go and have some networking and drinks. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Have a great Christmas. Cheers all.
Hi, how you doing?